Pacific Central Station.
is it all burnt down. This is all the rebuild. Yeah. Yeah, there was nothing here when I went through a couple years ago. This is all new. The whole town was wiped out. Yeah. I'm glad they've started building again finally. Okay, there goes the Fraser. Say goodbye.